Welcome, sleepy traveler. You've arrived at a quiet space made just for you. My name is Valarie, and I am here to guide you gently into rest, to help ease your mind, soften your body, and drift you toward a peaceful, uninterrupted sleep. Whether your day was long or your thoughts feel a little too loud tonight, let this be your permission to slow down, to breathe, and to simply be. There's nothing more to do now. Just allow my voice to be your guide as we begin this gentle journey toward deep, nourishing rest. If you're new here, subscribe for sleep content like this, and like this video if you find it enjoyable. Let's begin. You've made it to the end of the day, and now the night welcomes you home. There is nothing left to fix, nothing more to chase. Let the outside world grow distant and quiet. This is your moment to rest, to breathe, to soften, to simply be. Take a slow breath in and gently release. Let it all go. Let your body melt into stillness. There is a hush beginning to settle around you, like mist across a quiet field, like moonlight on a sleeping lake. Let yourself be drawn into this soft quiet. There's no need to try. Sleep isn't something you chase. It comes when you surrender. So tonight, let everything else slip away. The thoughts, the tension, the little worries still circling. They can all wait. Let your mind drift like a leaf on a slow river. You don't have to control where it goes. Just float. Just breathe. Just rest. Notice your shoulders. Let them drop a little further. Feel the weight releasing. You've carried enough today. Let it go now. Feel your arms grow heavy. your fingers loose and still, your legs completely supported, your feet relaxed and free. Let your jaw soften, your brow smooth. Let even your thoughts slow to a gentle hush. You are safe now, safe to rest, safe to drift. The night is quiet, and within that quiet you are gently held, supported by the bed beneath you. Cradled by breath, wrapped in the stillness that deepens with each moment. Inhale calm. Exhale release. Each breath a thread of comfort. Each breath a lullaby. You may notice thoughts rising and falling. That's okay. You don't have to follow them. Let them come like waves, and let them go like tides. You are not your thoughts. You are the quiet behind them, the stillness waiting gently beneath. Let your attention drift to your breath again. Soft and natural. In and out. Like a breeze through tall grass. Like a lullaby played low and slow. You're doing nothing wrong. Sleep takes its time. And you're allowed to rest in the in-between. This is where healing happens, where restoration begins. Let your chest rise gently and fall just as softly. Each breath a quiet rhythm. Each moment a soft release. Imagine yourself wrapped in a blanket of starlight, or surrounded by clouds that carry you gently. Let the bed become a raft on a silent sea. You are floating now, drifting into peace. No destination. Just release. Let your energy soften. Let your heartbeat slow. The night asks nothing of you but presence. It only wants to soothe you. To lull you into the dream world waiting quietly nearby. You're already halfway there. The air around you is soft. The space within you is softer still. You can let go now. You are safe to surrender. Everything you are is enough. Everything you've done is enough. And now you rest. Let the silence gather like twilight. Let your breath deepen like dusk. Let your heart relax like petals at sundown. Tonight, you don't have to hold it all. Tonight, you are held by the quiet, by the breath, by this slow and sacred rhythm. There is no rush. No expectation. Only presence. Only peace. If you listen closely, you may hear the hush of the stars, the lull of the moon, the sound of sleep brushing near. You are in the arms of rest now, and it will hold you until morning. Feel how soft the night has become, how still the air, how light you feel just floating here. There is no effort needed, no task ahead. Only this breath and the next. And the next. Let your body drift deeper. Let your mind grow quieter. You are gently being pulled toward dreams. Follow the pull. It is soft, steady, and kind. Like the ocean tide, like the turning of stars. You are a part of it all. And all of it is resting now. So let go completely. Sink deeper into your breath. Deeper into the silence. And now, as the last of the day dissolves, let your body and mind grow still. Let yourself cross the threshold into rest. You are ready. You are safe. You are home. Close your eyes. Soften your breath. And enjoy tonight's bedtime story. If anyone had told me a rock could make someone's day, I would have laughed. I mean, rocks are just rocks. They sit there, gray and heavy, and nobody gives them a second thought unless they stub their toe on one. But that changed the day I held a little round pebble in my hand and thought, what if this could make someone smile? It all started on a breezy Saturday morning. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor of my bedroom, staring at the shoebox I had lugged home from the riverbank the day before. It was filled with smooth pebbles, each one different. Some oval, some round, some almost heart-shaped if you squinted. I'd washed them carefully in the bathroom sink until my mom shouted, "Jenny, are you doing geology or dishes in there?" Now they sat waiting, little blank canvases. I dipped my brush into bright yellow paint and took a deep breath. This first one had to be special. It was my starter pebble, the first step in what I was already calling, at least in my head, the kindness trail. The idea had come to me because of Mom. She had this thing she always said when I had a bad day or messed up my math homework. "You're doing great, Jenny girl, even if it doesn't feel like it." It was like she believed you could throw kindness into the world like a boomerang, and one day it would find its way back. So that's what I wanted to do. Toss kindness out there. Except instead of boomerangs, I had pebbles. I painted the first one with a yellow smiley face, and underneath, in tiny careful letters, "You're doing great." I blew on it until the paint dried and felt this little bubble of excitement in my chest. I wasn't just making art. I was sending a secret message to someone I might never meet. The corner bakery seemed like the perfect spot. It was the coziest place in our neighborhood, with striped awnings and the smell of cinnamon rolls that could make anyone's mouth water. People came and went all morning, parents grabbing coffee, kids tugging on sleeves for muffins, old ladies with their tiny dogs waiting patiently by the door. I tucked the pebble into my jacket pocket and set off down the street, my heart thumping like I was on a top-secret mission. In a way, I was. The sky was pale blue, and the air smelled like wet leaves and sugar. As I got closer, I spotted the green bench outside the bakery. A lady in a puffy coat was sipping coffee, scrolling on her phone. I slowed down, pretending to tie my shoe while my hand brushed the smooth pebble in my pocket. When the coast was clear, I slipped it out and placed it right on the bench, near the corner where someone's eye might catch it, but it wouldn't slide off. Then I walked away, fast enough to feel sneaky, but slow enough not to look suspicious. I made it to the end of the block before turning around. The pebble was just sitting there, ordinary and extraordinary all at once. My chest buzzed with pride. Mission complete. That night I couldn't stop thinking about it. I curled up on my bed with my journal, the one with the glittery purple cover, and started drawing a map of the neighborhood. I labeled streets, the park, the library, and of course, the corner bakery. Then I drew a tiny yellow dot on the bench. Pebble #1, you're doing great. I decided I'd leave one pebble a day, each with a different message. By the end of the month, there'd be 30 of them, 30 little bursts of kindness hiding in plain sight. My very own secret trail. I fell asleep with the journal still open beside me, the smell of acrylic paint lingering on my fingertips. What I didn't know, couldn't have known, was that someone found it. The next morning, I walked by the bakery again. The bench was empty. The pebble was gone. I froze, my heart hammering. For a second I worried someone had thrown it in the trash, or worse, kicked it into the street where it got run over by a car. But then I imagined something better. Maybe someone picked it up and slipped it into their pocket. Maybe they smiled a little, or maybe they just wondered who had left it there. Either way, it wasn't mine anymore. My pebble had found its person. I didn't know that person's name, but I would learn it soon enough. Later that week, while I was adding pebble #2, take a deep breath, you got this, to my journal map, Mom peeked in. You've been busy, she said, leaning against the door frame. It's a secret project, I said, grinning. Her eyebrows lifted. A good secret, I hope. The best kind, I said, and she laughed, ruffling my hair before heading downstairs. I didn't tell her about the kindness trail, not yet. Some things felt too magical to explain out loud. Somewhere across the neighborhood, a man named Mr. Thomas sat alone on his small apartment balcony. He had salt and pepper hair and a gray coat that smelled faintly of rain. In his pocket, he carried a small, round pebble painted with a smiley face. He had found it on the bench outside the bakery after his morning coffee. At first, he thought it was a kid's toy someone had dropped. Then he read the words, "You're doing great." It had been a long time since anyone said that to him. He rubbed the pebble with his thumb slowly, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. He put it in his coat pocket and decided to keep it there. That night, I didn't know about Mr. Thomas. I just sat at my desk painting Pebble #3 with tiny stars and the words, "Your smile makes the world brighter." My journal waited beside me, a yellow dot already drawn where tomorrow's pebble would go. The bus stop at the park. I imagined someone finding it on their way to work or school, and the thought made my chest feel fizzy, like I'd swallowed a whole can of soda at once. I didn't know it yet, but my kindness trail had officially begun. And somewhere in the city, a lonely man carried my first pebble in his pocket, his fingers brushing its smooth painted surface like a reminder he didn't know he needed. I didn't think leaving pebbles could get any more exciting than that first one, but I was wrong. The day after I left my smiley face pebble at the bakery bench, I woke up feeling like I had a secret superpower, like I'd dropped a little piece of sunshine into the world, and it was out there, doing its job even while I brushed my teeth and wrestled with my tangled hair. My second pebble was ready. I'd painted it a soft sky blue and added tiny white clouds around the edges. Across the middle, in my best neat letters, I wrote, "Today matters because you're in it." I stared at the words for a long time as they dried. I hoped whoever found it would believe it, even just a little. I decided to leave this one at the post office. It was a tiny brick building on the corner of Maple and 3rd, with a big square window near the door. Lots of people walked past it every day, and I figured, well, mailing letters probably meant they had someone to think about. Maybe they needed someone to think about them, too. After school, I tucked the pebble into my coat pocket and walked the long way home. The air smelled like wet leaves, and the sky looked like it might sprinkle rain. But I didn't care. When I reached the post office, no one was around. Perfect. I tiptoed to the wide windowsill and placed the pebble right in the corner, where the sunlight could catch the soft blue paint. For a second, I just stood there staring at it, my heart racing. Then I turned and walked away, trying not to grin like I'd just pulled off the best prank in the world. But instead of trouble, all I was spreading was kindness. The next afternoon, I swung by the post office on my way home, pretending I was just taking the scenic route. The pebble was gone. A thrill zipped through me. I pictured someone picking it up, reading the words, and maybe, even if it was just for a moment, feeling less invisible. But what I didn't know was that it had been found by a man named Mr. Thomas. I didn't know Mr. Thomas yet. I didn't know he was the man who had picked up my first pebble at the bakery either. If I had followed him that afternoon, I would have seen him in his gray coat with the slightly frayed collar, stepping into the post office with a letter in his hand. He didn't mail things often. He didn't get much mail himself. But once a month, he sent a note to his sister in another state. It was one of the few routines he kept after his wife passed away 3 years ago. When he stepped out of the post office, he noticed a blue pebble sitting on the window ledge. He paused, curious. The words made him blink. Today matters because you're in it. He glanced around the street, but no one seemed to be paying attention. Slowly, he picked it up. He ran his thumb over the smooth paint and, for the first time in a long while, felt like someone had spoken directly to him. The next day, he brought a pebble of his own. He didn't paint it. Instead, he chose a small, smooth stone from the edge of his backyard garden and used a small carving tool he hadn't touched in years. His late wife had given it to him for whittling, back when he used to make little wooden birds. On the stone, he carved a simple heart and the word "thanks." Then, on his morning walk, he left it on the same windowsill at the post office, right where the blue pebble had been. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. It was the next afternoon, and I was bouncing on my toes as I reached the post office. I had half hoped for a miracle. Maybe another pebble would be waiting. And there it was. Gray, smooth, with a heart carved into it and a single word that made me gasp. Thanks. I spun in a little circle, grinning so hard my cheeks hurt. Someone had seen my pebble. Someone had answered. It was like sending a message in a bottle and actually getting a reply. I clutched the pebble to my chest all the way home, my backpack bouncing. That night, I added a new page to my journal map. Instead of just a yellow dot for Pebble #2, I drew a tiny heart next to it and scribbled, "Reply found." That night, I painted my next pebble with extra care. This one was purple with little golden stars around the edges. Across the center, I wrote, "I'm glad you're here too." I didn't know who they were, man, woman, kid, grandma, anyone, but I meant it. I was glad whoever they were existed in the world with me. The next morning I tucked it into my pocket and practically skipped to school. All day I could hardly focus, doodling tiny rocks and hearts in the margins of my math notes. When the final bell rang, I darted to the post office, my secret pebble warm in my palm. I placed it gently on the windowsill, right where the carved heart had been. Then I walked away, humming to myself, feeling like I'd just shared a handshake with the universe. The next day, the heart pebble was gone, and so began the quietest, most magical friendship of my life. Every few days I'd leave a new pebble. Sometimes it would be painted with words like, "Your smile makes the world brighter. You are somebody's reason to hope." Keep going. You're loved. And sometimes a reply pebble would appear. Mr. Thomas's pebbles were always simple, sometimes carved with a heart, sometimes with a star, sometimes just polished smooth with the word thanks. I didn't know who he was. He didn't know me. But I felt like I had found a secret pen pal, one who spoke in stone instead of paper. After a week of exchanging pebbles, I noticed something in myself that felt new. I walked taller. I smiled more at strangers. I even hummed while brushing my teeth. One afternoon, I lingered by the post office and noticed a man in a gray coat walking up the street. He looked a little tired, but when he reached into his pocket and touched something, maybe a pebble, his shoulders relaxed. I ducked behind the corner, my heart racing. I didn't know for sure it was him, but somehow I knew. I wanted to wave, to shout, "It's me! I'm the pebble person." But I didn't. Some magic only works if you keep it quiet. That night I opened my journal and drew a big looping line from the bakery bench to the post office window, connecting Pebble Hash 1 and Pebble Hash 2 with a heart in the middle. The kindness trail wasn't just mine anymore. It was ours. The rain started on a Tuesday morning, soft at first, like a whisper against the window. By the time I tugged on my yellow raincoat and peeked outside, the whisper had turned into a steady conversation between the sky and the earth. Fat drops splashed in the puddles on our front path, and the wind rattled the mailbox like it had secrets to tell. I pressed my forehead to the cold glass for a moment, my breath fogging the window. Rainy days always made our little town look different, like someone had taken a paintbrush and blurred the edges of everything. The bakery across the street was just a smear of warm gold light, and Mrs. Hollins's hydrangea bush looked heavy with silver droplets. I thought of the pebble I had painted last night, soft lavender with white swirls, and the words I'd written carefully across it in black marker. Storms don't last forever. I held it in my hand now, turning it over. My fingers were still smudged with a trace of lavender paint, and my heart felt full of the tiny hope I wanted to leave for someone else. But how was I supposed to leave a pebble today without it washing away, or, worse, getting lost in the flooding gutters? "Jenny, you'll be late for school," Mom called from the kitchen, her voice warm like the toast she was making. "Coming." I tucked the pebble into my raincoat pocket and slipped on my boots. When I opened the front door, the air smelled like wet earth and new beginnings. I took one step out and almost laughed. The rain bounced off my hood in tiny drum beats. Our street was empty except for the occasional car slicing through the puddles. Perfect. If I was quick and clever, I could still leave my pebble behind. I spotted the post office across the street. Its window had been where I left my last message. "Today matters because you're in it." And that one had disappeared by the next morning. I hoped whoever found it felt the words sink into their heart. This time, though, the window ledge was slick with rain. I couldn't just leave the pebble there. Then my eyes landed on a flower pot tucked under the awning by the door. Red geraniums drooped from the weather, petals like wet paper. I crouched low and slipped my pebble into the soil near the rim, tucking it where only someone paying attention would see. My heart gave a little jump. "Safe and dry," I whispered, and dashed towards school before the next car splashed past. The week stretched long and gray, the kind that makes the world feel slow and sleepy. Every day I left a pebble somewhere new, like I was on a secret mission. Wednesday's pebble went under the library steps where the rain didn't reach. I had written, "Someone out there cares about you." Thursday, I left one on the bench outside Mr. Kim's grocery store, under the overhang, hoping someone waiting for a ride might see it. This one said, "A little kindness can warm the coldest day." Friday, I got creative. I slid a pebble, "You are stronger than you know," into the hollow of the oak tree by the park. I imagined some kid playing in the mud, or maybe a tired grown-up cutting through the park on their way home, spotting it and feeling seen. Each time I left a pebble, a glow spread through my chest, like I was carrying a candle around in the rain. On Saturday morning, I went to check if any pebbles were still there. I expected the rain might have scared people away, but to my surprise, they were all gone. Every single one. And that's when I saw it. On the same bench where I had left Thursday's pebble, a smooth gray stone rested in the corner. It had a tiny carved heart and two neat words etched in black marker. "Thank you." I froze, water dripping from my hood onto my boots. My heart thumped against my ribs like it wanted to run off on its own. Someone had replied. Someone had noticed me. Not just the pebbles, but me. I picked up the stone carefully, like it was a secret whispered into my palm. I turned in a slow circle, but the street was empty except for the hiss of rain on pavement. Whoever my mystery person was, they were gone. I tucked the stone into my pocket, warm against my fingers despite the chill. After that, the rainy week didn't feel so heavy anymore. Every morning I'd check for new messages, and sure enough, the next day I found another pebble, this one on the library steps where I'd left one earlier in the week. It was simple, smooth white, and said, "You shine brighter than you know." My chest squeezed tight. I read it twice, then 3 times, letting the words melt into me like sunlight sneaking through rain clouds. At dinner that night, I couldn't keep it in anymore. "Mom," I said, trying to sound casual as I poked at my mashed potatoes. "You know the pebbles I've been leaving?" She smiled softly. "I do." "Well, someone's writing back. I found 2 stones with messages this week. Isn't that kind of amazing?" Mom leaned her chin on her hand, eyes warm. "That's more than amazing. That's connection, Jenny. Some people just need a little light, and maybe you gave it to them. I thought about that as I helped clear the dishes, my fingers brushing the secret stone in my pocket. Light. That's what this whole pebble thing felt like. Little sparks in the rain. The next morning, I spent extra time picking my pebble. I wanted it to be perfect. I chose a smooth black one I'd painted with a swirl of yellow like a tiny galaxy and wrote, "You are not alone." I left it on the post office window ledge again, sheltered just enough from the drizzle. That afternoon, as I passed by on my way home from the library, the pebble was gone. In its place, another stone waited. This one was reddish-brown, and the writing said, "Your kindness makes the world softer." I pressed it to my heart right there on the sidewalk. I didn't even care that my boots were filling with water or that my hair was plastered to my cheeks. Someone was listening. Someone cared enough to speak back in this quiet, magical way. By Sunday, the rain slowed to a mist and the clouds began to break. Sunlight spilled through the gaps like someone was lifting the corners of a gray blanket. I decided to take a walk to the park, holding my little basket of fresh pebbles. Kids splashed in puddles. Birds shook water off their wings. Everything smelled like wet grass and fresh starts. I left a new pebble on the park bench. Even the rain helps flowers grow. As I turned to leave, I noticed an older man sitting beneath the oak tree, the one with the hollow where I'd left a pebble earlier in the week. He wore a flat cap and a long coat, and in his hands he turned a small stone over and over like he was memorizing it by touch. I froze mid-step. My heart did a somersault. Could it be him? The man looked up and caught me staring. For a moment my breath caught like I'd swallowed a bubble. His eyes crinkled in a smile, soft and knowing, like he'd just solved a lovely little riddle. He didn't say anything, and neither did I. But as I walked past, I noticed his hand slip something into the hollow of the oak. Later, when he was gone, I tiptoed back. Inside the hollow, a pebble waited. This one said, "The world is brighter because of you." I pressed it against my cheek and let the warmth of those words seep into me, knowing that somehow, in the middle of this rainy week, two strangers had found a way to share light. And maybe, just maybe, the sun would keep breaking through. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Our street after school usually had its own kind of music. Cars humming, kids laughing, the occasional dog barking at the mail carrier. But that afternoon, as I rounded the corner by the playground, all I could hear was the hollow thud of my boots on wet pavement. The rain from the past week had stopped, but the air still held that soft, damp smell like the sky hadn't finished crying. I clutched my little bag of pebbles to my chest. Today's pebble was my favorite so far. Pale pink with a tiny white cloud and the words, "The world is better with you in it." I'd spent almost an hour last night painting the cloud just right. I could already picture it sitting on the old stone wall by the school, waiting for someone to find it. Except when I turned the corner and saw the wall, my heart stopped. The wall was gone. Well, not gone exactly, just changed. Big wooden boards and orange construction fencing had swallowed the whole stretch of sidewalk where the mossy stones used to be. A bulldozer sat in the mud like a lazy yellow beast, and pieces of the wall were stacked in jagged piles. I ran up to the fence, my boots squelching in the soft earth. My fingers gripped the cold metal links as I scanned the mess, my chest tight. I knew it was just a wall, just a spot I'd picked because the stones had little nooks perfect for tucking pebbles. But still, that was where I'd started leaving my first messages. The tiny purple pebble that had said, "You matter," gone. The yellow one with the smiling face, gone. All my little sparks of hope, scattered like they had never been. I swallowed hard, blinking fast. My pebble felt heavy in my palm, like it suddenly wasn't magic at all. "What's even the point?" I whispered to nobody. A worker in an orange vest walked by, carrying a clipboard. He didn't even glance at me. To him, it was just a pile of rocks. To me, it was like someone had erased my trail. I dragged my feet the whole walk home, my usual sparkle dimmed. Normally, I'd look for new hiding spots, peering into mailboxes and windowsills for replies, but today, I didn't have it in me. By the time I reached our porch, my pebble was still clutched tight in my fist. Maybe I should stop. Maybe leaving pieces of my heart around town was silly. Walls could fall. Rain could wash words away. People could step right over the messages without even seeing them. I climbed the steps, shoulders heavy, and froze. Something small and square sat on the top step, wrapped in plain brown paper. No address, no stamp, just sitting there like it had been waiting for me. I glanced around, half expecting to see someone peeking from behind a car or hedge. The street was quiet. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It wasn't heavy, but something shifted inside, soft like cloth with tiny clicks of stone. Inside I found a velvet pouch, deep blue like the evening sky. My breath caught as I loosened the golden drawstring and tipped it over my palm. Pebbles spilled into my hand, my pebbles. The pink one with the sun, the lavender swirl, the little galaxy I'd painted black and yellow. Every message I'd left in the past few weeks rested there, warm from the pouch, like they'd been sleeping, and nestled among them a folded note. I opened it carefully. The handwriting was neat but a little shaky. "They helped more than you'll ever know. Please don't stop." No name, no signature. But at the bottom of the pouch was a single pebble I hadn't made. It was painted with a bright yellow sun, smiling wide. I sat right there on the porch, my knees pulled up, my heart hammering like a hummingbird's wings. The world tilted a little, the way it does when you're so happy and surprised that everything feels too bright to be real. Someone hadn't just noticed my trail. They'd been following it, collecting it, holding on to every tiny piece of hope I'd left behind. My words weren't gone. They weren't washed away or forgotten. They were treasured. I ran my fingers over the stones in my lap, reading my own handwriting like I was seeing it for the first time. Storms don't last forever. You shine brighter than you know. You are not alone. I pictured this person, my mystery pebble friend, picking up each one like a secret gift, tucking it into a pocket, holding it close when the world felt heavy. Maybe they were the one who had replied before. Maybe they were the one sitting under the oak tree. Whoever they were, they had found a way to give me the biggest pebble of hope yet. When Mom got home from work, I was still sitting on the porch with the pouch in my lap. "Jenny," she said, pausing in the doorway. "Why are you—" "Oh!" I held up the note, my grin so wide it made my cheeks hurt. "They kept them, Mom, every single one, and they told me not to stop." Her eyes softened the way they do when she's both proud and a little teary. She crouched next to me and ran her fingers over the smiling sun pebble. "See? You're making ripples, sweetheart. Little lights in the world. I think your trail means more than you even realize." I thought of the cleared wall, the empty spaces where my words used to live. Maybe some spots would disappear. Maybe some stones would get lost. But my trail wasn't really on the walls or benches or mailboxes. It was in hearts. That night, I lined up all the returned pebbles on my bedroom windowsill. They caught the lamplight, soft and glowing, like a constellation I'd built myself. I opened the velvet pouch and slipped in my newest pebble, the pale pink one I hadn't left yet. Tomorrow, I decided, the trail would grow again. Only now, I knew for sure, it wasn't disappearing. It was alive. I don't think I slept at all the night before. Not because I was scared or sad, though maybe there was a little of that, but because my mind wouldn't stop swirling with colors and words and possibilities. All the pebbles I'd painted, all the messages I'd tucked into corners of the world, had been my own quiet whispers of hope. And now, after the velvet pouch and the note telling me don't stop, I wanted my whisper to grow louder, to become something that wasn't just mine. That's how the idea was born. I sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor, surrounded by little jars of paint and brushes with frayed tips, holding one last smooth gray pebble in my palm. This one was special. This one was an invitation. In careful letters I painted, "Come to the library garden at 4 p.m. if you've ever found a pebble." I added a tiny pink flower in the corner because the library garden always smelled like blossoms in spring. When it was dry, I turned it over and painted a sun, just like the one on the pebble I'd been given. I held it up to the light, my heart thumping. This was the pebble that might change everything. After school, I slipped the invitation pebble into my coat pocket and biked slowly through town, scanning for the perfect spot. The mailbox in front of the bakery was tempting. Lots of people stopped there, but I wanted it to be somewhere someone who had already followed my trail might pass. Then I saw the little brick ledge by the post office window, the same place where my very first reply had appeared. I hopped off my bike and set the pebble down gently, letting my fingers linger on it for a moment. "There you go," I whispered. "Find your way to someone who needs you." The library garden was my favorite secret in town, even though it wasn't really secret. Most people just walked past it without noticing, tucked behind the tall hedges and the old stone fountain. Inside, a narrow gravel path wound between flower beds and benches, and in spring the cherry tree sprinkled pink petals like confetti. Mom and I arrived a little before 4, carrying a small box of extra pebbles and paints, just in case. She squeezed my hand as we sat on the wooden bench near the fountain. "Nervous?" she asked. "A little," I admitted. "What if nobody comes?" "Then we'll still have a peaceful afternoon in the garden," she said. "And I'll be the first to paint a pebble with you." I smiled, but my stomach still felt like a fluttering jar of moths. The garden was quiet, except for the soft splash of the fountain and the occasional chirp of a brave bird. Minutes crawled by. I swung my feet, counted the pebbles in our box, and tried to pretend I wasn't watching the gate every 2 seconds. Then, footsteps. A figure rounded the corner. Mrs. Hollins, our neighbor with the hydrangeas, carrying her umbrella even though the sky was clear. "Hello, Jenny," she called warmly. "I hope I'm not too early. I found one of your pebbles in my flower pot last week." My heart leapt. "You came," I said, scrambling to my feet. "You really found one?" She nodded, her eyes soft. It said, "Storms don't last forever." I kept it on my kitchen windowsill. It helped more than you know. I bit my lip to stop from grinning too hard. Then came Mr. Kim from the grocery store, holding one of my galaxy pebbles like it was made of gold. Behind him, a pair of teenagers I recognized from school arrived, whispering to each other and pretending not to be shy. And then my breath caught. Through the gate came a man in a flat cap carrying a small wicker basket. Mr. Thomas. He walked slowly toward us, smiling like the sun breaking through clouds. When he reached me, he held out the basket. Inside were neat stacks of smooth, blank stones. "I thought," he said, voice gentle, "maybe today we could start a new trail together." For a second, I couldn't speak. My throat felt full of warmth, like every pebble message I'd ever painted had rolled back into my chest all at once. "You're the one," I finally managed. "The one who wrote back, who gave me the pouch." He chuckled softly. "Guilty. I wasn't sure if you'd ever know. But I wanted you to understand. You weren't just painting stones. You were planting seeds, and they grew in more hearts than mine, I think." I glanced at the growing circle of neighbors, all holding their pebbles, all smiling shyly in the golden light. I swallowed hard and said, "Then let's plant some more." Mom helped lay out the paints and brushes on the bench. Mr. Thomas set his basket of stones in the center like a treasure chest. Everyone knelt or sat or crouched on the gravel paths, dipping brushes into color, their laughter mixing with the splash of the fountain. Mrs. Hollins painted a heart with little raindrops. Mr. Kim wrote, "Take a deep breath, you're okay." The teenagers surprised me with bright neon stars and the word "shine" in glittery letters. And me? I painted a tiny bluebird and wrote, "Kindness grows when we share it." By the time the sun dipped lower, the bench was covered in drying pebbles. 40, maybe 50, more than I could have ever done alone. I watched as neighbors, friends now, not strangers, began to tuck the stones into pockets and baskets, ready to carry them out into the world. Our quiet, secret trail had turned into a garden of its own. Before everyone left, Mr. Thomas placed one last pebble in my hand. It wasn't painted yet, just a smooth, warm stone. "For your next message," he said with a wink. "I think the world's ready." I nodded, feeling the weight of it, not heavy but full of promise, because this wasn't the end of the pebble trail. It was only the beginning. The next morning I biked through town and saw them everywhere. A bright yellow pebble on the bakery steps. "You are enough." A red one in the park tree hollow. "Hello, friend." A soft purple one on the library ledge. "Your smile matters." Each one was a little spark of light, and I didn't even know who had painted them. I rode past the old construction site where the stone wall used to be. The fence was still up, but on a wooden post someone had glued a smooth white pebble with a painted sun, smiling down at the street. I laughed out loud, the sound bouncing into the crisp morning air. The world felt full of voices, full of color, full of quiet kindness. And I knew that somewhere, someday, someone would find a pebble, pick it up, and feel a little warmer inside. And maybe, just maybe, they'd start their own trail too. I squeezed the blank stone in my pocket and whispered, "Let's see where you'll go next." The pebble trail wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to everyone. And that was exactly how it was meant to be. And that ends tonight's meditation. You're welcome to stay for a bit longer if you like. Have a beautiful night. Until next time.